Hello ladies and gentlemen, Panzer here, and welcome to Racecraft. Or Racecraft. I don't know. Racecraft. This is a game about racing. Specifically Formula 1 style racing. So, if you're used to games like Rally, like I am, this is going to be a very, very different type of game for you. Its key feature is that it allows you to generate an endless number of tracks. Now, they do say that this is the first time it's been done in the game. I don't know if that's entirely true, because I remember a lot of racing games in the past, such as V-Rally, and this is a long time ago, used to have that option to generate and make your own tracks. However, this does it for you very quickly and easily, so I'm going to demonstrate that for you right now. So, these are the tracks, so we can set a few different options. We can have a very short track if we want to, by just simply going to that, and then we have a very, very short track, or we can go for a very long one, by doing that. So you can see the actual distance. I believe the number of turns there is changing. So we do have one left-hander on this one and 3 right-handers with no chicanes or S-bends or anything like that. Or we can go for one here, like that, which is 2 chicanes, 5 right-handers and 3 left-handers. So that's something we can do. Tortuosity is a word I'm not too familiar with, but I believe that relates to the complexity of the track. So if we go to 5, you can actually see, we can just keep hitting the option there to allow it to generate different tracks. Or we can just keep switching here. And these are the tracks that we will be given. And then we've got, of course, got different times of day. Now we can just go with midday for now. So that will allow us to have the best visibility so far. And then we go to generate. And there it goes. It's just building the track now. It doesn't actually take too long. So that's, I guess, a pretty good thing. And you can actually see in the early access, this is an early access game, where they're currently at the time of recording. Of course, they're in percentages on the loading screen. And of course, they do save some tracks, so we can go back to old tracks that have generated here. They have quite complicated names, mainly because I think that's just a random generated thing, but there we go. Some of the options are grayed out right now. For example, career and events is completely grayed out. And of course, my cars, which is something that is going to be coming later on. So if you're familiar with games such as Trackmania and all that, where you have to race all the same cars, this doesn't force you to do that. You will have a selection of different cars, as well as the ability to modify those cars to suit particular types of tracks. So in future, of course, if there are different events, you can set up your car for the way you want to drive, which I believe is a very, very good thing, and it's something that's often overlooked. So, yeah, every driver does drive differently, and that will be something to look forward to. So, this is the track we're going to be racing on here. Now, the 2 modes at the moment are Hot Lap and Race. I'm not going to be doing Hot Lap simply because the last time I tried to do it, it crashed. I don't know why. But Race Mode just simply puts you against one bot, and you can set the difficulty as you wish. Right here, I am playing with the controller. There are no mouse-driven menus at the moment, so if you do plan to play with a keyboard, I don't recommend it, but you can. You have to use the arrow keys to move around on the menu, which is a little bit disappointing, but, you know, early access, it is what it is at the moment. So let's get on with the driving. It's still been very silent up until now, but now we're going to have a lot of noise. Now, it doesn't sound entirely like a Formula 1 car. It sounds a little bit like an Indy car, if I'm right. But sound is one of the things in the game that is actually very, very well done already. So we actually do have... I'm not sure if you can quite pick it up there. You might have to have the volume all the way up to hear it. But there is actually sound coming from the brakes right now, so that's something there. You can see the markers there for the braking points. It doesn't give you a racing line, but it does tell you the gearing for each corner, and it does point out the gearing right on the apex there as well, and gives you the accurate braking points as well. So at the moment, the way the car is set up, it's a little bit slidey, and it doesn't respond under braking too well. But I have to say, the driving simulation, and I'm off the track already. There's no damage simulation at the moment, but the driving simulation is actually pretty good. So you can just see we can kick the tires out, or kick the tail out quite nicely there. it is still quite controllable even while sliding, which I don't know if Formula 1 cars entirely are, but it does respond exactly how you would expect, so you can actually feel the weight shift quite nicely there. There is no rumble or force feedback or anything like that at the moment. There is wheel support because it does use X input instead of generic, or rather, it uses X input as well, so you can use an Xbox 360, an Xbox controller, or an Xbox wheel if you want to, and I believe it will support any Thrustmaster wheels or anything else using X input as well. So if you do have any of those controllers, then you can definitely use that with this. I haven't tried the wheel yet, but it does work pretty well with the controllers so far. And that's one of the things about driving games, really. You really have to nail the handling and the physics right off the bat. Like, the controls feel very responsive. You can even see, just next to the speedometer on the bottom right-hand side of the screen there, you can actually see where my braking and acceleration is. So you can see really just stabbing at the brakes and throttle really hard at the moment, just not really paying attention to what I'm doing. So if you want to criticize my driving, there you go, there's all the data you'll ever need. I mean, so far I've been playing this game for about, I'd say, a couple of days now. Obviously not consecutively, but I have to say that it is still quite enjoyable simply because of the number of tracks you can just generate. Obviously only being able to play against bots at the moment, in fact only one bot who happens to be a ghost, you can drive straight through them, is a little bit disappointing for now, but if you get into it early, of course, it will more than likely be cheaper, as there are plans to do multiplayer, online and local in future as well, so that's definitely something to look forward to if you're a racing fan. I can definitely see this being quite enjoyable just for party play among friends, simply because of the number of tracks you can generate, and of course once physics and collisions are added as well, this could be something that's quite quite enjoyable to just play around with friends. They are aiming for competitive scene as far as I know, which is surprising for an indie developer. This is developed by Victis Games. As far as I know, they haven't made anything yet before. This is a relatively new endeavor for them. I could be wrong about that. I haven't done too much research into the company, but they are aiming for esports for this game, which, as far as racing games go, it's a very ambitious thing, because the competitive scene for racing games, as far as I know anyway, has not been in the mainstream for a long time. In fact, I think the biggest competitive scene for racing could well actually still be Trackmania. The last time I checked, it definitely was. And that's simply just down to how much skill is involved, and this could end up being a game with a very high skill ceiling. If so, it could do very well with the sort of competitive scene. Now, that was that track, so let's go and generate one more. And let's set all of these settings to just shuffle along. Let's see if we can generate... In fact, you know what, let's go for one with the sunrise. Oh, that looks like a fun track. Let's try that one. Alright, here we go. So there's another track right here. So I do wonder if the game will take off, because driving in esports is definitely something that I would like to watch. It's something I would definitely watch. I think the closest thing to that at the moment in terms of competitives really is Rocket League, which is not a racing game despite what Steam might tell you. But it is a competitive game for sure, and that's one that is very enjoyable to watch. So, to see an actual competitive racing game come back as well, and one that performs as well as it does, would definitely be interesting to see. Now, as far as performance goes, I was expecting, right, because this is a driving game that did have some pretty nice looking graphics in the screenshots. Obviously the graphics are still being worked on right now, so everything you see here is subject to change. But because of the graphics I saw in the trailers and the Steam screenshots, I was expecting something to not run particularly well, and I guess that's probably just the stigma of early access. But this is running really smoothly. In fact, before I turned VSync on and just let the frame rate stay uncapped, this was running at about 150 frames a second on my machine. And that's at the sort of medium graphics settings. When I up the graphics to its maximum that I could put on at the moment, there are a lot of graphics options that are currently disabled, namely depth of field and a lot of the lighting options right now. All of those options I were completely disabled, so I just enabled whatever I could, put that onto the maximum, and I got 120 frames a second on my machine, which is pretty damn good, actually, compared to a lot of early access games. So this is definitely something that is very surprising, and is very nice to see. Of course, maybe one day the whole early access stigma will go away, but for now, at least, this is a good example of an early access game that seems to be doing it right. Of course, I will be following its progress to see if it actually does become anything good, but right now, it seems like a pretty solid contender. So, as far as the roadmap goes for this, they have said that the multiplayer, at least, should be out by the middle of this year. So we're looking at June, July, latest maybe August, hopefully, for that. Which I think will definitely help this game to take off quite significantly. Right now, it's more of a demonstrator for what they can do. And the bottom line is, as far as driving goes, they've nailed it. It's responsive, the car handles very, very well, and it does take a decent amount of skill to get used to at first. Of course, I would like to see more complexity in the tracks become possible in future. And of course, maybe once the car customization comes up, we could maybe see higher grades of cars, more challenging cars to drive, and all that sort of thing as well. That would definitely up the difficulty more. Right now, the car is a little bit of a handful. I can't imagine driving this without a controller, but that being said, it doesn't take too long to get used to. And I think that's just down to the fact that there's a lot of factors that aren't being taken into account. Things like tire temperature and brake temperature as well, in a car such as this, would definitely be an issue if they're going for that sort of realism aspect of it. And of course, damage simulation would be nice to see as well. So, a competitive Formula 1 racing game with procedurally generated tracks could be good. That's really all I can say about those games so far, is that, you know, it could be good. I mean, I'm enjoying it for what it is, but I think that for this to be a full game, it really does need some significant work to add in the remaining features. Multiplayer being the chief among that. And possibly the career mode, if people are keen on that as well. In fact, actually, come to think of it, weather effects would be one to look forward to as well. But yeah, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is Panzer taking a look at Racecraft. It's now available on Steam Early Access. Go and check it out, and I'll see you next time.